Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Intelligent Advanced Automation. And today we'll be learning more about the advanced exception handling. How do we handle exception in our real project? So in earlier video we have learned how we have handled exception in the read input file. Now today we'll be doing the same, the exception handling in the create orders. So let's say if for first loop our Chrome failed to launch, or we have issue in our site, or let's say the username password expire for an application, what how should we handle those kind of exceptions? So in such kind of exception, when we have number of items to loop through, what we do basically is we mark the status as failed or completed in our output file. So let's say this is our output file. Let's say that we got the order number for this, for the first line. Let's say we got this order number. Okay, and once we got the order number, the bot will mark it as completed. Okay, now let's say this one has failed because Chrome has not launched or there is no item into the cart. Let's say that this failed. So through the exception handling, we will mark this as failed. Again, if this is completed, then we'll do it like this. So this we'll be learning today. How can we do this using the exception handling logic? How do we prepare the output file? How do we update the output file using the exception handling? Okay, let's delete it, save and close it, and let's go back to our flow. So here let's make a use of block similar to this. Let me quickly use this block. Unblock error. Let's name it create order exception block. Okay, let's save it. Here it is. Let's place it here. Okay, so now if you see, our whole of our create orders flow is inside the block now. Now what we have done in our earlier part is we have created a variable for exception handling. Okay, so let's create a exception counter here as well. Okay, now let's copy this. So once this flow is completed, we will have to initialize the exception counter. Okay, let's initialize the value to 0, and we have increased the value by 1. Now let's say that we can copy this logic from here, that if exception is greater than 3, then we need to stop the flow or we need to terminate the flow. Okay, okay, like this. Okay, but this time we do not have to stop the flow. Okay, instead what we need to do is, if there is an exception, okay, then it should retry first, and if the limit has reached, then it should go to next loop instead of stopping the flow. So here we are stopping the flow, but in this kind of exception handling, we do not want to stop the flow. We want that it should update the output file and go to the next loop or go to the next iteration. Now let's see how do we do that. Now, if there is any exception, let us do this. Go to end of the block. If there is any exception, go to beginning of the block. So what it will do, if there is any exception during any of these actions, the flow will come here. Okay, when it comes here, it will see if there is any actions inside. So it see, okay, there is action. It will increase the counter by 1. Okay, now if the exception counter limit has reached, then it should go to directly end of the loop. Okay, so let's make a use of label. Yeah. Okay, let's create a label. Okay, let's call this loop end. Okay, now if the exception limit is reached, then go to loop end. Okay, now if bot comes here, then it will go to next loop. But we also need to initialize the things as they are. Let's say the Chrome is launched. Okay, but the bot fails while reading the file, right? So we need to terminate the Chrome also. So let's create a flow, new subflow. Let's call it terminate process. Use terminate process. Let's, so if process already open, it will take the name automatically. Okay, let's get to create orders and let's run a subflow, terminate process. Save. Okay, let's save it. For running, let's set the value when there is any exception here. So what this will do now is to reset the exception counter. Now what this flow will do is if there is an order number, then it will update the output file. If there is no order number, then it will go to loop and it will not update the output file. Let's see how it runs. Okay, it is opening the Excel file, that is our input file. Read the file. Now it is on create orders. It has launched the Chrome. We will also be handling this pop-up in our next run. Let's for now let's close this and let's, so we have the order number and bot has updated the order number and now we are on the next loop. So let's run it and this time let's make it a deliberate field. Okay. Let me click OK and let it fail. Okay, it has failed. Let's see. Okay, it has terminated the process Chrome and let us see the exception counter. Okay, exception counter is 1, so it will retry once more, times more. So it has launched the Chrome. Okay, it will fail again since there is no items in the shopping cart. Okay, run it again. The exception counter changes to 2. it has failed again, and this time the limit has reached and it goes to loop and reset the exception counter and move to the next loop. So now it is on next loop. Let us run this last loop also, and let's see how the output file is being prepared. So I've added some item to the cart so that we'll proceed. Okay, so it has updated, and let's see the output file. And if you see, the second is blank, but if we need to update the status, there will be a simple flow. Let us delete this for now. Go back to our flow, and let's make use of the store output. So if you see here, we are updating the order number with the match value. That means the value we are getting. But now we want to update the status. So let's make a copy of it. Rename it to update status. Okay. And our sheet is same, but our column is change status and set it to, let's create a variable first. Create a variable called status. Okay, let's call it completed. Okay, so now let's go to create orders. So once our flow is completed, right, we have the status here. We are storing the output. So we have pasted this variable onto there. Let us delete for this for now and store output, and we will also be calling the update status here. Okay, and if it fails, right, if it fails, then it will come to loop end. So in our exception handling block, we will call a new subflow, or we can also call our subflow here, and we can also call our subflow on block. So let's call it on loop end for now. Data status. Okay. Data status we need to call, but the status value this time will change to failed. Okay, this status value should be changing to failed. So whenever there is an exception limit reached, then it will update the status as failed, and if it is going well, then it will update the status as completed. Okay, let's save and have a final run for this. So before running it, let's first handle this Chrome pop-up. Okay, let's make a use of it. Window contains after the launch in Chrome contains. So I have already spied the element. Save. So contains this, then click. Okay, let's save this. Close the browser and let's run this. I've added some item to the cart. So it will close this restore page pop-up, and let's make a deliberate fail this time. Okay, so it has failed. Okay, so it has updated the status as failed because we are retrying 2 times for single loop iteration. So it is currently on the third loop, and let's see.